Mozambique, 1949. A brief notice appears in a local newspaper. A Spanish intelligence operative, dead of tropical fever. 31 years old. A man who, 5 years earlier, had helped change the outcome of the Second World War. It is the kind of notice no one saves. The kind that means a man is gone and the world moves on. Except that the man is not dead. He is alive. He is, in fact, boarding a ship. He has a new name, a new past, a new life arranged for him by British intelligence. He has been handed a set of instructions so stark they border on cruelty. Stay silent. Tell no one what you did. You are officially dead. Now go and live with that. The man who helped save the Normandy landings, who may have kept 150,000 Allied soldiers alive on June 6, 1944, has just been erased, on purpose, by the people he served. This is a story about what happened afterward, about a man who received military honors from both sides of the same conflict and then, for nearly 40 years, ran a bookshop in Curaçao under a false name and told no one. His real story came within a single phone call of disappearing forever, and we will get to that phone call. But first, we need to understand how a man arrives at a false death notice on a different continent, back to a chicken farm in Barça Eloa, back to the most improbable beginning in the history of modern intelligence, Madrid, 1941. A man with no intelligence training, no government backing, and no contacts walks into the British embassy and offers to spy against Nazi Germany. The British say no. He is a Spanish civilian. He has no access, no credentials, no value. The door closes. Most people would stop there. This man goes to the German AHB Wehr instead. He sits across the desk from an AHB Wehr officer and tells him that he is a passionate Nazi sympathizer, recently employed by the Spanish government, who wants to help the Reich. He is lying. Everything about that sentence is a lie. But he says it with the steady, specific conviction of a man who has rehearsed it. And the AHB Wehr believes him. They hand him a code book, a bottle of invisible ink, and £3,000 in cash. They tell him to go to London and recruit a network of agents. He does not go to London. He goes to Lisbon. And here, in a rented flat in Portugal, he does something that should have been impossible. He invents an entire spy ring. Not one agent, not 5, but 27 fictional sub-agents, using a street map of Britain, a copy of the WWII tourist guidebook, and a library card. He writes detailed biographical files for each one. He fabricates personalities, addresses, professional covers, dialects, petty jealousies between agents who have never met because they do not exist. He sends back intelligence reports accurate enough to be useful, harmless enough to be safe, and detailed enough to be convincing. For over a year, the German High Command believes every word. By 1942, when British MI5 finally tracks him down, having intercepted his messages to Berlin and realized there is a rogue double agent operating unchecked out of Lisbon, the AHB Wehr trusts him completely. He has built his credibility from nothing but paper and nerve. The British bring him in. They give him a code name, Garbo. After Greta Garbo, the actress, because MI5 felt he was the greatest actor in the world. What they do not yet know is that what Garbo is about to do next will make everything that came before look like a rehearsal. To understand what Garbo did next, you need to understand the stakes. The Allies are planning the largest seaborne invasion in history, Normandy, June 6. To succeed, they need the Germans to believe the real landing is elsewhere, at Pas du Calais, the short crossing, the obvious answer. Operation Fortitude is the deception designed to plant that belief. Garbo is its primary instrument. And if his cover breaks now, the entire landing is exposed. His fictional agents feed German intelligence a steady diet of invented troop movements, false unit positions, fabricated convoy sightings, all pointing toward Calais. The German High Command is reading these reports. Hitler is reading these reports. and every word is built on nothing but paper, ink, and one man's nerve. Then comes the night of June 5th, 1944, 10 o'clock in the evening. Garbo sits alone in his London flat, the radio set warm beside him, and composes a message that will be one of the most precisely calibrated lies in military history. He is warning the Germans, deliberately. The message tells German high command that the invasion is imminent, that his agents have confirmed the movement of troops toward the coast. He sends it too late for the Germans to act on it in time, too late to stop the landing, early enough to be believed. This is the precision of what Garbo does. The message arrives after the ships are already crossing the channel, so it cannot be used to mount a defense. But it will be logged by German intelligence as proof that their most trusted agent was warning them in real time. When the landing happens and the Germans are weighing whether Normandy is the real invasion or a feint, Garbo's credibility is intact. His next message can still be believed. June 7, 1944. Normandy is secured, the Allied foothold holds, and Garbo sends another message. Normandy is the feint, the real invasion is still coming at Calais. Hold your reserves. Historians estimate that the subsequent delay in German response, the weeks in which Hitler refused to commit his Panzer reserves to Normandy because he was waiting for the Calais landing, contributed to the Allied breakout in a way that may have shortened the European war by months. An estimated 19 German divisions were held at Calais long after the strategic window for their deployment had passed. Hitler was so impressed with Garbo's warning message that he personally ordered him awarded the Iron Cross, second class. The same week, Britain awarded Garbo the Order of the British Empire, the Iron Cross and the OBE. Both real, both secret. He is, to this day, the only person documented to have received military decorations from both sides of the same war. His name is Juan Pujol Garcia. And now you understand why almost no one in 1944 was allowed to know it. The medals go into a drawer, and then the door closes again, this time permanently. The double cross system, the British operation that ran Garbo and over 100 other double agents, was classified top secret, not for a few years, for decades. The files would not be publicly acknowledged until 1972, when a historian named J.C. Masterman published his account against the explicit opposition of MI5. For 30 years, the most successful deception operation in the history of modern warfare did not officially exist. Garbo is told, stay silent. For his own safety, surviving Nazi networks, Franco ist Spain, people who would want to know what he knew and who he burned. For operational security, for reasons that are never fully explained to him, and that he, by this point, has learned not to press. In 1949, British intelligence helps him arrange the death notice in Mozambique, a false fever, a false burial, a real ship ticket. He crosses the Atlantic. He lands in Curaçao. He takes a name, Juan Garcia, and he opens a bookshop, then a gift shop. He learns the streets of a city that will never know what he did to earn the right to walk them in peace. For 38 years, Juan Pujol Garcia is officially dead. The people who pass his bookshop see a quiet Spanish emigrant, polite, keeps to himself. They do not see the man who once held, in the palm of one hand, the credibility of an entire fictional intelligence network, and in the other, the belief of the Third Reich. They do not know about the invisible ink, the tourist guidebook, the 27 names he gave to people who never breathed. They do not know his real name. The reckoning, when it comes, arrives through a phone directory. In the late 1970s, a British intelligence writer named Nia Jules West is convinced that Garbo did not die in Mozambique. He begins calling every entry named Juan Garcia in the Barcelona phone directory. There are dozens. The phone rings. No answer or the wrong man, or a voice that goes quiet and hangs up. He works through the list. On one of the calls, a nephew answers. The nephew does not know much, but he knows enough. West does not yet have an address in Venezuela. But he has a thread, and he pulls it. When West finally reaches him and convinces him that the story can now be told, that the double-cross files are slowly emerging from classification, that history is ready to listen, Garbo agrees. In 1984, 35 years after the fake death notice, Juan Pujol Garcia returns to Britain. He meets Prince Philip. He receives belated official recognition. He shakes hands with men who knew what he did and spent decades pretending they didn't. He dies in Cwrachus in October 1988. He is 76 years old. Outside of intelligence history circles, almost no one knows his name. Here is what is still true. The deception that kept the Panzer divisions waiting at Calais, while the Normandy bridgehead was established, was built, in significant part, by a man who started with a tourist guidebook and a decision to lie, alone, without official backing, before any government would claim him. And then the government that benefited most made him officially dead, locked his story in a classified file for 3 decades, and sent him to a continent where no one would recognize him. The suppression was not malice, it was policy. And the practical effect of policy was that he spent the last decades of his life running a gift shop in Cwrachus and hoping no one looked too closely at the gaps in his story. You have never heard his name until now. And the thing worth sitting with is this. His story was this close to disappearing forever. One nephew who did not answer the phone. One writer who did not make the call. And Garbo is a ghost in a Mozambique death notice, and nothing more. If this story stayed with you, the next person history erased is linked right there. The British SOE agent the Nazis could not break, whose name barely made it into the official record.